we? Oh, there
Welcome
we
to
go.
the Hidden Heroes Talk Show. My name is Ariel and Aaron. Today's guest speaker is Ann Keith, calling in from Mexico. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Will you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where you're from, what are your hobbies, that kind of stuff.
Well, I grew up on the East Coast and lived in San Francisco for many, many years. I now own a home in Seattle, but I spent the most of the last year traveling. I was sick for many, many years. I am still sick, but I was confined in my own home for about 13 or 14 years, which means I went nowhere but doctors or maybe the grocery store once in a while. And we've got some medication that's working for me right now, so I'm taking advantage of that to do some travel, also to do a lot of advocacy for my disease.
Good for you. That's awesome. Raising awareness on something dear to heart is a good thing.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about the disease and actually what it is and where it comes from. Is it a genetic thing? Is it an acquired thing? How did that happen?
The disease name is Myalgic Encephalomyelitis, which is very long, so we call it ME. The best that they know, they haven't done very much research on it, and that's why I'm an advocate. It appears to be something that you get an infection, and then your immune system gets revved up and never stops. And some research recently out suggests that perhaps it actually burns itself out after a certain number of years. But in essence, if you can imagine the worst flu or the worst awful you've ever felt, and then you never get better, ever. It is very grueling. Mild patients drop their function by 50%. In other words, take your day from when you get up to when you go to bed, cut it in half, and fit everything in, or not. That's a mild case. A severe case, a moderate case is housebound like I was. A severe case, which I have been, it's when you can't even get out of bed. At the worst I couldn't have sat propped up like I'm sitting right now. I literally couldn't do it. It was exhausting. I couldn't. And very severe patients have to be in dark rooms. Because their body can't handle sensation, they have to be in silent, dark rooms. They can't be touched, and they live that way for years, completely isolated and set aside. And the government has done almost nothing for it, and in fact has done things that have harmed research going forward. So patients are fighting and saying, no, we won't tolerate that. And it's been an uphill battle. I think I've seen some progress in the last few years, but we've got a major government initiative right now that is a big deal. Has some positives, but it's got some very big negatives that could set our research back 30 years. So that's the disease. That's what I'm fighting for.
Now, as an advocate and an avid fighter, what are you doing? Who are you going out here and getting, or what missions are you on a daily basis or a weekly basis, even in your current state with your illness? What are you doing now to get it out there?
Well, a lot of what the advocacy is done online, simply because patients are too sick to do any other thing. I have spoken a couple of times to federal committees, but mainly we're trying to raise awareness any way we can. Speaking on a show like this is wonderful. Trying to get the news out. This is a disease, you may know it as chronic fatigue syndrome. And that was a branding the government did 30 years ago that was very dismissive. They basically said it was whiny white women. Turns out it's men, women, and children. It is people of color, people not of color, any age you can imagine. So, and it has nothing to do with whining. It has to do with getting sick. They can show that our immune systems are wrong. They can do an exercise test that they do for heart disease. They put you on a treadmill and they make you run as fast as you can for as long as you can, and they measure all the gases your body absorbs and puts out. If they did it to me today, I would look like I'm out of shape. If they did it to me tomorrow, I would drop my function. I might be only 60% of what I could do today. There's no other disease that does that. So anytime you put out energy, there's a really negative impact. Getting that known has been a big deal. Getting the government to admit it's been an even bigger deal. They don't want to spend money. Currently, they spend about $5 a patient per year. So my life has been worth a Big Mac a year. Not even the fries, mind you, just the Big Mac. Multiple sclerosis, which is not even as devastating as this, which is a pretty strong statement, but it's actually one that has been made by authorities recently. They get 20 times the amount we get. Lupus, which is again a similar disease, gets 40 times what we get. To get our disease to where it ought to be is massive. We should go from 5 million to 250 million is what the jump is. And recently there's a report that was sponsored by the government called the Institute of Medicine. The group is called the Institute of Medicine, which is a think tank on this disease, and they have suggested that massive of a funding increase. That report was done over the objection of patients, so it was not our friend. And it's come out with a definition that is very questionable, a name that is as bad or worse than chronic fatigue syndrome in terms of the stigma it's already carrying. So there's a lot of things we're fighting, trying to get things changed any way we can. So we're going to Congress. I'm sorry, excuse me.
No, I was just saying, like, as a patient who's going through this and having people, you know, connecting with others who are going through this online as well, and just being in this, it can be a very down, negative feeling, you know, especially to feel like maybe the government doesn't care for you or care about your disease. What are you doing as a positive, like, reflection on this, or do you have like affirmations or anything on your website, or do you have like anything that you're putting positive out there to, you know, just help others and just uplift your friends that you're making now? Do you have anything that can help them just be in a positive state?
Yes, I think that we are seeing movement finally. For a long time it was stuck, and we just we had a lot of negatives coming in. The government in the U.S. and in Britain has actually gone out of their way to actually spike research, which is the opposite of everything you grow up and believe. But after you see it, you know it. People are pretty supportive in many ways. I mean, there's a lot of division, and everybody's got their own opinion of what should be done. There's 1 million sufferers in the U.S., 1 to 2 million. That's twice as many as multiple sclerosis. So you've got all kinds of opinions. But one of the big problems in our community, and I know it's one of your passions, Ariel, is suicide, because it's such an awful disease to live with, intense pain and suffering that has no end. Yeah. Recently there was someone online that reached out that sounded like she had kind of ended where she could handle. The pain had gotten too much. She'd had too much medical neglect, and the community just rallied around her. You know, that's, I think, an important part of our community. We're not a perfect group. We can be a little feisty with each other, but we want to see change, and that's a real big positive. For me personally, I have a character in fiction that I love that is disabled, and nothing stops him. Nothing stops him. And someone describes him that if he came up to a wall, he would go over it, or he would go to the left, or he'd go to the right, or he'd go under it, or if he had to, he'd blow the thing up and keep going. And that's kind of what my feeling is I'm not going to let this stop. There may be times I can't go forward, but I'm not going back. So, I mean, that's kind of where my philosophy is. And the thing that really motivates me is the really, really sick patients, especially the really sick kids. You know, they're just a big motivation to me that I have to keep going. I've got to keep fighting for them. So.
Just a personal question. Do you plan on writing a book about this? I feel like you would be awesome at raising the awareness, maybe your own personal journey.
I haven't thought of that.
Good.
One of the things that actually happens, I'm on a good day today.
Yeah.
But in a bad day, I have trouble speaking. I can't find words. It's part of the cognitive damage done by the disease. What happens with the disease is the cells don't make energy right. So if you think of your cell phone, if the battery dies really quickly and you can't get it to charge very fast, you got a bad cable, that's what this disease is like. And the parts of your body that use the most energy are your brain and your muscles and your digestive tract, you know, various parts like that, you know, that it makes it harder to do something like that. I can't even imagine trying to do it. All I can do to write an essay here and there.
I understand.
Well, like you said, today is a good day, but tomorrow might be a bad day. You know, we have our ups and our downs. What keeps you going? What would you say is a saying or a quote or just an affirmation that you have to say to yourself to keep you going throughout the day?
I don't know if I've got a saying. It's more of that sense of I can't stop. I won't stop because there are people that cannot fight for themselves.
Right.
And so, I mean, that's not really, I don't know, it's not an affirmation per se, but you just kind of learn with this disease to live right in the moment. You are happy with what you have, or you try to be, because you know there is no guarantee. You know that it can all disappear. I mean, literally, I woke up one day. I had been working on my house the day before, doing construction and lifting cement and things like that, and the next day I couldn't hold onto a hammer. I couldn't figure out how to tell a contractor what to do with my architectural drawings. So literally, one day to the next. So you learn to be thankful for what you got. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but
No, it does. It does. I won't stop. I love it. If people wanted to connect with you or reach out or share your story, where could they connect with you?
they're welcome to join me on Facebook. I'm Ann Keith 52, I believe. I also am involved with a group called MEadvocay.rg that is working towards trying to help people, and we need both healthies and others that are sick, because we're trying to, in fact, you know, we're trying to pull together ways that we can contact Congress and respond to this report. We've been doing that, but to do more. And make it clear to government that they have to fund this disease, they have to quit doing research that is bad, that they know is bad. They have got to move the ball forward because there are lives at stake. So, you know, it's...
For sure. That makes sense. Well, my hat is off to you. A lot of people would succumb to the pain of it. So the fact that you're saying, no, I know what I have, I know what this is, but I don't want to stop here and I want to help others get through it, that's commendable, and that's definitely a hidden hero. So we appreciate story too.
Thank you. You know, the heroes that I think of are more the people that are the ones that are much sicker than I am. I'm lucky in that I responded to one of the experimental medications.
Gotcha.
And very lucky that I can respond to that. Many people don't. Actually, several I've responded to. The heroes are the people that take care of the very ill. One in particular that I'm going to call out is a guy in England named Greg Crowhurst, who just placed third in the British Nursing Association's Nurse of the Year, which is a big honor, but it's even bigger when you realize that his sole patient is his wife. And all he's done for I don't know how many years is care for her. And she is one of those, she can have no light, no sound, he can't touch her. He has to, I don't know if she's tube fed or if he has to spoon feed her. It literally is too much work for her to lift a spoon to her mouth, is how severe this gets. Somebody like Greg, now there's the hero.
Yeah.
You know, somebody like that's amazing.
Definitely agree. And well, thank you for taking your time and spending it with us, telling us, raising awareness on this disease. I'm not going to say the whole name, but it goes by ME.
Goes by Emmy.
But it's been a pleasure speaking with you, and we wish that you would continue to, if you can get better, to get better, but to continue to raise awareness and be a voice for those that could have no voice right now.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Again, everyone listening in, this is Hidden Heroes with Ariel and Aaron, and today's guest speaker has been Ann Keith. Thank you, and have a great evening.
Bye-bye.